All right, so here are the theories of what I believe actually happened during a helpful content update. And before we start, I actually want to preface this section by just saying that these are only theories. And until we have a repeatable process for recovering websites affected by the helpful content update, these are just theories. And I'm actually trying to validate these theories by running a whole bunch of experiments. So in the background, I've actually just covered them. I have a whole bunch of experiments, and we're trying to disprove the theories and see which ones actually stick and actually make a difference. So make sure to check back for updated test results. However, for now, here is my theory, or here are my theories on the helpful content update. This is the theory number one. I think it's the most complete. And it's actually that I believe that the August core update and the helpful content update are indirectly linked. So while they're two completely different updates themselves, I think that one helps the other. I believe that the Google actually needed the August core update in order to isolate the pages that it further needed to analyze with the helpful content update classifier. So let me just explain that. If you're Google and you're looking at the entire web and you're saying, wow, we need to scan billions and maybe trillions of web pages, if they want to do that with an AI classifier, that's quite a lot of resources. It actually might not be possible to do at this point because it's going to require so many resources. So what you might want to do is first come up with a first update, which would be the August core update, to first isolate the sites with a bad user experience. At that point, you could essentially cut down the amount of sites that you need to scan, right? So you kind of chunk this down from like 100% to like 40%. And right off the bat, you'd be looking at the sites with like a bad user metrics. So I'm just putting here as an example, one-time visitors, people that just visit your website once and they never come back and never see your website again. Maybe they're kind of isolating that. And now it's a lot less websites to scan with an AI classifier. Then what they could do is they could actually go and further filter this, essentially only looking for article sites that have a poor user experience. So once again, we chunk this down and reduce it and reduce it and reduce it. And we go from having to scan trillions and trillions of pages to maybe only, I don't know, maybe like 100 million pages or so. I don't know the metrics that you're working with, but it would be a considerably smaller percentage of the entire web. So this means that it'll be faster, they save resources, and ultimately they save money, right? So this is all good things. And that's why I believe that they're working hand in hand in order to first isolate the sites that they need to scan and then scan them. A long time ago, if you've been doing SEO for a decade now, they actually had manual penalties they were handing out for, I think, Penguin. And this is kind of a similar approach that they were doing. They're first taking all the websites, and they were doing a level of filtering, and then they're doing another filtering. And then finally, those websites, when they were filtered, then they could go and kind of like go over them one final time. So they like to chunk things down so they don't have to run their algorithm or the AI classifier on absolutely the entire web. So I believe that this is the mechanism that's also acting for the helpful content update. And I believe that if you have enough direct or reoccurring visitors going to your website, then you're essentially protected from the helpful content update. And coincidentally or not, I don't know, but Google also recently published a notice encouraging webmasters to update their site name. So whenever Google does a major update, sometimes I find at least it's useful to look at the other posts and other things that they're mentioning around the same time frame, either slightly before or after the update. And here, one of them is them putting out and updating this and saying, "Hey, update your site name so Google could recognize an official name." Now, in my opinion, the reason they would want to do this is because they want to make sure that they're getting the navigational and queries right for your website. So when people are typing in your name, they could better identify it, and that could just make their entire process run better. So I believe that the two ways to recover and essentially to go about the getting better results from a helpful content update is either to improve your website's metrics to increase the quantity of navigational searches seeking your website, so getting a whole bunch of people typing in your site name, or alternatively, it's to enhance your website so that when the AI classifier does run, it seems as if most of your pages are considered helpful. So there'd be two ways to kind of approach a recovery in this instance, or in this theory at least. So I believe that the first 2,000 words of a page you need for the AI classifier, if you're trying to go that route, you need identifiable names. So this is authors, username, profiles. You want them to be clickable. You want to offer proof of expertise or firsthand experience so that the AI recognizes that as it reads the content. You want to have a date published somewhere, so either a last date or a published. And just kind of at a side note, apparently last updated works better if you're always updating things and you're keeping things fresh. So I don't know. I would probably prefer last updated. And of course, you want to have identifiable answers. And recently, we've actually been seeing multiple answers do quite well. So from different sources. So if you have like 3-4 people providing different answers from different perspectives, that seems to be doing quite well. So those are the things that we would want to present to the AI classifier. And of course, this is another point that I didn't really touch on as much as I would have liked, but it all needs to be on a topically relevant website. So in our testing, whenever we are looking for results, a lot of times it's going to have a bunch of topical authority for that content. So this is what you would need to or aim for if you don't have enough sufficient recurring visitor metrics. You want to make sure that the vast majority of your pages are going to be considered helpful. So that's theory number one. Now, we can move on to an entirely different theory that could act together or completely independent. So this could be taken as a completely different theory that has nothing to do with the first one. So, second theory is that the main focus of this update might be related to the relevance of the documents to the search query. So Google's new AI classifier might be seeking hyper-focused documents to present to users depending on the keyword or title of the page. So what we essentially saw is that narrowly focused documents or narrowly focused pages focus really, really on the topic seem to do much better, and larger cover everything articles seemed to not do as well in many instances. So if we take a look and kind of illustrate this, what we're talking about is the AI classifier might, and remember, these are only theories, might be looking for answers within the page and determining, is this piece of content specifically related to the topic or not? So if let's say you're only answering the answer at the top of the page, and then the rest kind of goes into history, into other things that are not specifically relevant to your content, then maybe the AI classifier could say, hey, this page is 15% helpful, right? It looks at all the content, says, yeah, about 15%, not super helpful overall, only partially helpful. Then if you have 50%, right, of your page that is going to be the answers to whatever topic you're talking about, then maybe it says 50% helpful. And then maybe that passes the threshold that that they might set. You want to have a certain portion of the page to be hyper-focused on that topic. Next, if you have 100%, like we've seen with some comments, user-generated content, where it's all about that specific topic, it might be deemed 100% helpful. And this could potentially be why we're seeing many, not all, but many narrowly focused articles ranking in spite of not really meeting the traditional SEO standards. Now, when I'm thinking of the Reddit comments or the community sites that we saw with the whole user-generated content, then I'm reminded about the recurring visitors, how that's important, and how we want to have different perspectives of the answers, all of that. But essentially, this would provide helpful content that the AI might be able to recognize. So this, the way we would approach it is we would go through all our articles and we would hyper-focus our articles to make sure that we look at a title, say, hey, is this related to the content that we're trying to present to Google? And is this the type of content that we want to have? And we remove all the excess stuff that's not related. Now, once again, this is a hypothetical. I don't want people going to chop down their their websites just to test this out. Let me test this first. We're probably going to be testing this. And by the way, these are just theories. All right, cool. So alternate theory number 3. And this is, I want to preface this one. This one is once again completely independent from the other ones. It could be unrelated to the other ones as well. And this is also the least likely one, right? So take this, but I still want to present it. So it's possible that Google is using just the site metrics, such as navigational queries and recurring visitors, to determine what is helpful and what is not. Maybe they're just using that as a very simple fix for them. They're just like, okay, well, if you're an article site that has below these metrics, then we're just not going to deem you helpful. And what they might be using the AI classifier for is to categorize the articles into different article types. So what I mean by that is essentially it could classify the articles to identify all the information article websites, because there's a whole bunch of different articles on the web, right? There's contact pages, there's resource pages, there's going to be all, e-commerce pages, product pages. There's different types of articles, different types of content all over the place. Maybe they're just using the AI classifier to just isolate what they want to scan. And then they're just looking at the metrics and saying, oh, well, if you're below a certain user metric, then penalize it. If this were the case, and once again, it seems unlikely, but if this was the case, then the only way to recover would be to improve your website's user metrics by encouraging people to search for your website on Google or return after an initial visit. So these are my 3 theories. And now we're actually going over tests to validate these theories, and we're performing multiple experiments as we speak. So it's not enough to just come up with ideas. We want to go in and see if these ideas actually stick and actually make a difference. So let me just go over the test that we're currently running. One is we're currently running a test to add authors to all our website, to the test websites, where we're adding author bios, specifying specific expertise that lines up with the article topic, and making sure the author information is really accessible to Google. So this is a full focus on author bios. Now, Google hasn't had time to go in and crawl every bio author, and they haven't had time to update and recalculate their score. So these test results are actually still pending. But once we get the test results, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be updating our official sheet with the test results. So if you want to, you could check back to the official publication, the paper that I'm putting out on this, and we're just going to keep on updating the test results there. So that's test number 1. Test number 2 is we're actually testing expert quotes and references. So one of the things that I mentioned is Google wants to find answers to the question, and they want to have authoritative answers. So we are testing this, and we actually designed custom software, experimental custom software to test this. So we've actually created hundreds of quotes at this point on a few test websites to test how the helpful content update would react to experts' quotes being inside the content to help improve the relevance to the topic and have a kind of an authority answer to every single topic. All right. Next, we are testing comments. We actually created more custom software specifically for the helpful content update. And we actually created I wrote 1,415 comments, but at this point, we're over 2,000 comments with unique names, personas, point of views on the subject, all contributing helpful material to the page. So once again, we're testing this to see if it makes a difference, because as we saw, one of the recurring themes is having a whole bunch of names, having user-generated content. So we wanted to see, is this just a sign or just a byproduct of people going to big websites and just engaging in the discussion, or is it the discussion itself? So is Google picking up at a discussion, or is it just us seeing that there's a whole bunch of people that go to this website? So this is one of the things we want to test, and we're running a test right now, but we still don't have conclusive results on this. Another test we're doing is altering the ratio of SEO-focused articles that's targeting a specific high cost per click keyword versus articles that are not necessarily targeting a high cost per click keyword. So to do this, we actually added 100 articles that are helpful. They're on topic because we still want to build topical authority. However, they're not going for a specific how to do this the kind of query that is currently ranking on Google. So what we're doing here is we're trying to play around with the ratio of hyper-focused keywords to kind of alter this. So that's another test that we're going through, and we're going to be seeing what this provides. Next is going to be hyper-focused text. So I talked about this quite a bit, and this is in the works. We're actually kind of developing this, a way to test hyper-focus and narrowing the scope of the content. So as I mentioned, we have sites that, we're covering a whole bunch of topics, and now we're going to be testing hyper-focused sites, hyper-focused content to see if this makes a difference. However, this is a big endeavor, and it requires slashing and trashing a whole bunch of stuff. So we're still working on this. And once we test this, I will let you know. Next, we're actually testing altering the ratio of helpful to non-helpful pages. So there are many different ideas and paths we could take. One of them is if you just introduce a discussion forum and you create a big forum, then if you have 1,000 page of a forum, that ends up shifting the ratio of your article page to a forum page. So if you essentially shift the ratio of your website, this might have an effect on your the helpfulness rating of your entire website. Alternatively, you could even add potentially an e-commerce portion of a page. And there's a whole bunch of different approaches we could do. And we're basically brainstorming and thinking about how we're going to do this test right now. Next, navigational queries. Now, this is not recommended at all. And one of the tests that we are essentially planning is sending a whole bunch of fake navigational queries and visitor sessions over an extended period of time to see how the signals affect the website. In theory, if it's done right and Google picks them up and doesn't discount them as fake, it should make us pass the helpful content update by virtue of simulating recurring visitors. However, I'm a big proponent of having recurring visitors, but I'm quite against faking it over a long period of time because it's not sustainable. I've done so much work on this in the past, and for like 3 years I was doing work on this. And what happens is when you stop sending signals, then you experience a sharp drop, and it's actually better, in my opinion, to never start faking it rather than to start faking it and the drop. Because whenever Google notices sharp drop, that's actually a huge negative signal as opposed to just being steady over time. So if you were to do this, or if one better way of us doing this would actually to have a branding campaign to increase the amount of search sites that the site receives on the long term. So have a reason for people to search for the site. This might be a better test. So I'm still brainstorming on how to execute this test, but this is a test that we have planned. Now, cool. So here we've gone over my theories. We've gone over the test that we're performing. And here is how I would recover my own site from the helpful content update if I had a site that I needed to recover. So I'm going to tell you what I would personally do. And it's going to try to cover all three of the theories at the same time, but proceed at your own risk. I'm not telling you to do this. I have no control over your website, and you're 100% responsible for any changes that you make. I don't control Google at all. However, here's what I would personally do to my own website. So step number one, what I would do is I would start by listing all the trust elements on my website on each article. Specifically, I'd make sure I have an author name, a reviewed by, which is an optional thing, a last published date as well. And I'd make sure that when you click on the name, it brings you, which is called the author byline, it brings you to a section that's dedicated with an author bio. So when Google follows this link, it could go read the bio of the author. And inside the bio of the author, I would make sure that you are an expert. So here I actually just mentioned it. I would make sure the name is clickable, and I want to make sure that the bio is trustworthy. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about trustworthy bios is you want to mention your industry, essentially. You want to mention your credentials. You want to mention your expertise. If you have certifications, like you went to school, you have a diploma for it, mention it in there. Years of experience, all these things I would mention inside the bio. So the way you do it in WordPress, if you're using WordPress, and you might be if you're affected by a helpful content update, is you go to I think it's users, then all users, and then you find your user, and then in there you're gonna have biographical information. And I like to use another plugin to change the image as well. And by the way, just as a side note, my copywriter wrote this bio for me. I always feel awkward writing bios. So if ever you need to write a bio for yourself, you can have a friend do it or someone else that knows you write your bio, but make sure it's authoritative. All right, cool. Now, once you have your bio, make sure that the bio is displayed on every single article. So this is something that I would add as well to my website. It's not good to only have the bio. I want to make sure it's displayed on every single article. All right, cool. Next is whenever I'm writing an article, I would go over my articles. I would ask myself, what's the main question that the user wants answered when they land on this page? So I'm looking essentially at the heading or the title of the page, and then I would create a quote from an authoritative body providing an answer to this question, and I'd list this answer near the top just to make sure if there's an AI classifier looking for the answer, they find an authoritative answer near the top from an expert that's not me. Another expert. So they actually get a different point of view. They're getting at least two answers inside the top portion of the page. I think if I was recovering a website, this is what I would do. So here we actually have an example that we had from another website where it just say, here's what the National Wood Flooring Association recommends for removing white spots. This is kind of a quote from them, or essentially explaining the answer again. So this would add in a different perspective to the page. Now, next thing, I would encourage discussion. I want people to discuss on my websites. This is good no matter what. However, this might be a signal, who knows at this point. And I would open up comments and seed friendly comments on every single article to encourage discussion. I know for a long time we actually had a whole bunch of comments. Then what happened is comments kind of went away. Everyone just started dislabeling the comments. I think it might be time, I would test at least, to bring them back and encourage people to leave comments and to have discussions on the websites. Now, when I've done this in the past, I know you have to deal with spam where people just come in and try to spam you, which is annoying, but I would just remove all the spam, obviously, and try to keep the good comments that come in. So my goal with all of this is actually to increase navigational queries for my site and to improve the relevance and the quantity of answers for whatever topic I'm essentially trying to rank for. So this has a twofold effect. Because, by the way, if ever you leave a comment, you usually go back to the website or to the page to check to see if anyone's replied to your comment. So as soon as you write something, you're engaged and you're going to go back. All right. Next, ads in moderation. So one of the things I would do on my website, I would do kind of an audit and make sure that I don't have too many ads. Because as I saw when I was going through a whole bunch of things, if Google detects an excessive amount of ads, then that might cause issues, especially with the recent helpful content update. So I'd reduce the quantity of ads by a significant amount. Next, I would go in Search Console and I would look at the crawled but not indexed. So inside Search Console, Google Search Console, you have crawled but not indexed. And then I would identify any pages that might be considered thin or duplicate content. Now, I don't think that this is specifically related to the helpful content update. This is probably related to other core updates where Google's just going after thin content. However, this is always part of my recovery process whenever I have a website that is affected. So I wanted to include this just because it's really good practice and it's one of the first things that I think every webmaster should do. Go figure out what Google saw and doesn't want to index. That's usually a good sign that it's not the best content. All right, next, I would return to my content and start pruning the large pages to be more focused on the specific content outlined in the title tag. So if this is how to clean a fireplace, and I'm talking about, services that I could offer, then I would essentially try to filter it out and I would focus more on the topic at hand. So here's an example. If I'm talking about eHarmony review, I'm not going to include the history of eHarmony. I'm just going to focus specifically on the review aspect and have a whole bunch of answers inside the article. Next, by the way, when I'm doing this and whenever I'm trimming down articles, one of the things that we noticed is that we still want to keep the quantity of related entities high, because it's very easy to accidentally kill your SEO rankings by chopping down a page and removing a whole bunch of important things that was giving you relevance and rankings in the first place. So whenever I'm taking parts down, I would make sure that my entity density is high. So whenever I'm optimizing things or modifying things, I'm essentially removing parts, then I'm rerunning a scan. I'm removing parts, I'm rerunning a scan, and I'm checking this number to make sure that it remains high. So even though here, the average word count is 3,000 and mine might be at 400, and this was ranking, but it also has a higher entity, compact entity density. So I believe that you can still trim things down while keeping your relevance high. Now, next, I would start writing a lot more on topics and not necessarily keywords. So I would start adding content and that's not specifically focused on high cost per click keywords. Instead of writing an article on how to make money, I might write an article about my money making lessons over 20 years in the SEO business. Now, I believe that this could be helpful. And I believe that when the AI might crawl this, it's very difficult to say, hey, you're not providing the answer. It should be a helpful resource. It should be a helpful article. And I think that having enough of these while increasing your topical relevance for whatever subject you're trying to rank could also help alter the ratio of super focused articles to normal articles. I don't know if that makes any sense. Basically, it's very hard for the AI to disagree with a personal experience. So I think that those should be counted as helpful because it's not going to be able to identify, hey, are you answering how to make money with our step-by-steps? You essentially have an article that's not geared towards that. So I think we see that a lot more with natural sites that are not necessarily writing specifically for search engines. And that's actually in the reviewer guidelines. Natural sites where people are writing about a whole bunch of different content topics, essentially, instead of specific high cost per click keywords, tend to do better. So that's kind of one of the approach that I might take. Next is I would make sure that I update my official site name, because I followed the official Google post that they posted recently. It's actually right here, developers, Google /search /docs, parent site names. And I would follow this and I put this type of script on my page just to make sure that Google knows exactly my site name and the alternate site names that I want them to consider whenever people are doing navigational searches. So my website has a chance of ranking and getting a whole bunch of navigational traffic back to it. So navigational searches, if you're not familiar with them, it could be any keyword with your site name after. We usually see Reddit, like quite a bit. It could be your site name like this. It could be your site name.com. It could be your site name at the beginning, how to do this, and then, site name. It could be all kinds of things. As long as your site name is appearing in search and people are navigating to your website with that, that is a positive signal. And I think this has and plays a big role in the helpful content update. Next, or finally, I would check for the updated test results, because you actually have a resource. You have a resource right here where we're performing a whole bunch of tests on the helpful content update, and we're going to be updating it. So as we go, if you want, this is going to be the official page, onpage.ai/pages/helpful content update. You'll be able to check the text version of the helpful content update report for the latest test results that we are performing. So you could just kind of leverage what we're doing, and that can maybe save you time, money, and just effort. And you could always repeat the test yourself, but if you want to just see what we're doing, this should help you out. All right, so here are final notes of the helpful content update. As you can imagine, this represented a significant investment, over 180 man hours from my team and myself, thousands of dollars invested. We developed custom software to be testing these things. We've done lots of research, lots of just money in actually gathering and processing the data. Numerous late night sessions. Been working on this for weeks. And the reason I chose to make this publicly available is to help as many people as possible that I believe were unfairly targeted by the helpful content update. I know a lot of people that are producing really good content that were affected by this, and this goes out to you. I want to help you. And even though for the past decade, I've been publishing private information and I've getting people to pay for the information and research that we do, this is going to be publicly available because I want to help you. I want to give you this at no cost. Now, I do understand some websites, deserve to be penalized, but I think there's a lot of unfairly penalized websites. So if this is helpful to you, then that's great. If you think this is valuable, please feel free to share this. Once again, it's available at no cost. Share it with your professional network among Facebook groups, Slack, Skype, Discord, Facebook, forums. And should you wish to support me in any way, I invite you to check out onpage.ai. One of the reasons why I keep up to date on all these algorithm changes and I do so much research and testing, it's like I take all the best stuff and integrate it into onpage.ai. So that is my main focus these days. So if you want to support me in any way, you don't have to, but it does help. And I'm confident it actually help you as well as an SEO professional. So my name is Eric Lancheres. This is the helpful content update research. It is ongoing. And should you have any, want to contribute any discoveries or from yourself, case studies, or if you're a Google employee and you have a correction, please email me, team@onpage.ai. And as always, I'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.